Welcome to Stirring Up Talk with Gecko Hospitality, the podcast where hospitality experts meets real-world success. Hi, Maury. How are you? Welcome to Stirring Up Talk.
Well, I'm doing really, really well, and I'm so excited for today.
Yay! I love to hear it. And can you give us a little bit, tell us about yourself?
Well, I'm Maury Jingle. I've been with Gecko Hospitality now going on 20 years. It's hard to
Wow.
believe. It seems like just yesterday that I met Rob in Chicago and we went and had lunch, and then the rest they say is history. With my wife Rhonda, she runs our Big Sky office, which is North and South Dakota, Montana, and Wyoming, and then I cover Dallas, Fort Worth, and North Texas. Have three kids and an adopted daughter. Just recently, my best friend passed away, so we've adopted her. She's there in Tampa Bay, and we have Banks, who's her son. I'm a big Oklahoma football fan. I went to school at the University of Oklahoma, so that's probably my biggest, and it's coming on right now. You know, it's 25 days to kickoff, so that's a little bit about me.
That's so fun. I love football too. All
Yeah,
right. You ready to jump into it?
I'm ready.
Okay. What was the most challenging part of starting out in the industry and how did you overcome it?
The biggest problem, or I should say problem, the opportunity was I was a district manager for 20 years with Ryan Steakhouses. And so I oversaw quite a few restaurants in four different states. And when you wanted results, you made a phone call within it. 30 minutes to an hour, you kind of had your answers and you could build off of your results. So when I got into the recruiting business and all of a sudden I was in an office all the time, was just not having that urgency and things happening. It took a little bit more time to develop, which was good because once I learned that and started developing the relationships, the urgency then came.
Wow. And was there a specific moment or mentor that shaped your career path?
Oh man, you're gonna make me say it. Yes, Marty Tarbar. Marty was he was my trainer right out of training. He the one thing you don't do when you're in operations, you don't really get on the phone much.
Yeah.
And Marty's thing is pick up the phone. And so he started right the first day with picking up the phone and calling candidates and talking with clients. So I got to give kudos to my boy Marty.
Was that one of the most valuable lessons you learned, you would say?
Oh yeah, I mean, and to this day, I mean, when we go back and when we train new recruiters, when we're talking to new franchise partners, it's the one thing we tell everybody: pick up the phone. I mean, technology has evolved to where it's the instant thing right now, to where you get a text, you get an email. It's that instant gratification, and it's like we were
Right.
talking earlier about TikTok and Instagram. It's there,
Yeah.
but there's nothing that can replace picking up the phone and having a conversation with somebody. And I think now that they feel special when you call them. It's like, oh, wow, you're calling me, because it kind of catches a lot of people off guard.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I would say when someone calls me, you have my phone number.
And it's funny thing about you when you say that, you don't really remember people's phone numbers anymore.
No.
I don't even know what my kid, if it wasn't for being programmed in my phone, I'd be lost. I wouldn't even know how to get a hold of them because I don't have their phone numbers memorized.
I only know my mom's and my dad. That's such an interesting journey in the way that, like, picking up the phone. Rob even always talks about picking up the phone. We're old school mentality. Like, he puts that in our brain.
Yeah, yeah. Us, I don't want to say older. I'll say us more mature franchise partners. I mean, that's how I mean, when we first came out, our biggest technology was a fax machine, and we had everything was faxed over to us. So think about resumes coming in, and you see how they come in through our database now, and they're automatically uploaded. I mean, we had file cabinets full of resumes, and that's how we communicated. So we had to pick up the phone and call people. Yeah, email was there, but it wasn't as dynamic as it is today, where everybody uses email. I mean, it was more coming online as technology back then, and as it evolved, then we got into ATS systems, and I think we've been through four different ATS systems now. So yeah, the evolving landscape of technology is great, but you can't replace the phone.
No, you can't. I agree with that. And let's talk about your Gecko hospitality experience. I know you touched base on that a little bit earlier, but how did you first get involved with Gecko?
Well, Ryan's used Gecko as an executive search firm, and
Yeah.
so I was very familiar with them. And I was at the point in my life where I had really kind of reached the pinnacle in operations. And I loved it. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely loved operations and I miss it daily. I mean, there's nothing like being in and able to work with a team and develop them and go on. But my daughter was getting ready to start high school.
Mhm.
And so I was gone a lot because I traveled, like I said, 4 states. And it was like, boy, if I could find something that I could be home more with my kids and my family, I needed to try. And one of the other district managers, John Simpson, he said, "Hey, Maury, I just bought a franchise with Gecko Hospitality. You ought to call Robert and check into it." And I called Robert, flew up to Chicago, spoke with him about it, and I thought, wow, this is going to be a perfect fit for me. Little did I know that 20 years later, I'm still here, and every day, this is going to sound kind of crazy, but every day I get up, it's like a new adventure. It's not like going into the office and it's the same old thing every day. Everything's
Right.
different because you're talking to newer clients, you're talking to older clients, you're talking to new candidates. You have candidates that are calling you just to talk to you about what happened with their family because you developed those relationships and those partnerships with them. So that's a very fulfilling thing.
That is fulfilling. And that's great insight for viewers watching this to want to get involved in Gecko hospitality. And
Oh, you're so, not to interrupt, but you're so right
yeah,
on
go ahead.
that. That's the thing that I talk about every day. We don't want to be the person that's just calling you up, talking to you about, hey,
Yeah.
what jobs do you have available? We want to be the people that is your go-to source on everything in the hospitality and restaurant industry. If there's, matter of fact, I just wrote a blog today about, I had a client yesterday, a conversation, and they called me to run across their new kids menu because the new
Hmm.
thing is healthier kids items. And he goes, Maury, I know you're going to be very honest with me and tell me yay or nay on where we're going in what direction. And that really made me feel good because that's what we're about. We're about helping the people that we work with, clients and candidates, better their future. It's not just about making the placement. Yeah, we have to have that because that's what we do, but it's building those relationships because we want to see those businesses be successful and grow. So the more we can help candidates and clients grow, the better everybody is.
Yeah, I agree with that. And how has being a part of Gecko hospitality aligned with your personal values?
Well, that's the cool thing about it because um, we are all a family. Although we're a
Yes,
diverse group, we are a family. And
I
I
couldn't
tell
agree
you,
more.
yeah, I mean, you're on now, and we're very supportive when. Well, I'll give you a personal example here, and how Gecko has affected us. I mean, my daughter's working with us now. Unfortunately, her cancer came back. It was stage 4, melanoma. She's doing great, but
Yes, good.
the whole Gecko community just jumped in there and was there for us. So were our clients, so were our candidates when they heard. So it is a family, not just with Gecko, but throughout our industry.
Yeah. And even just starting, I was able to feel the love coming in. So I agree with that. And let's talk about some key moments in your work history. Can you share a story about your first placement?
Okay, let's go back to boy. Marty's getting a lot of kudos here. I can
Yay.
hear him right after he hears this podcast. So it's second day of training, and we had a client that we were working with. Now, I took over a territory that didn't have hardly anybody in it. I mean, it was North and
Wow.
South Dakota, Montana, Wyoming. It was the frontier. Nobody had it, and so Marty goes, "Well, you got to build it." And so he goes, "We have this position. You have a candidate." It was actually Missoula, Montana. And so I picked up the phone and I called this young man and I said, "Hey, I've got an opportunity for you." Went through the little spiel that Marty had for me, which I've refined over the years. And
Mhm.
so we got him into the interview process. And the thing that sticks out most to me was we always prep the candidate the night before just to make sure that they're ready for the next day. And I spoke to him and I said, "All right, here's the deal." I said, "I want you to stand out because you're not the only person that's interviewing for this job." I said, "There's going to be other people there. So you need to be professional and you need to look professional." And he goes, "Excuse me." Okay. I said, "Do you have a coat and tie?" And he goes, "Oh, no, I don't." I said, "Well, do you have a brother, an uncle? Do you have a pastor, somebody that you can borrow it from?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, do that." And then I said, "If nothing else, go to Dollar General, buy a tie, but you need to be there." And I said, "Above all, the one thing I want you to do is I don't want you to wear restaurant shoes." And he goes, "Restaurant shoes?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "You're wearing nice shoes now, probably into work, but they're going to be covered with food because we're restaurant people. We don't think about that when we're running the back of the house." I said, so if
Yeah.
nothing else, go out and buy yourself a new pair of shoes. So he goes into the interview and does a very good job. And the last thing that the person he was interviewing with said was, I really like your shoes. And so that always stuck out with me as like, that was a defining moment for him, for the client and everything, because we were putting forth their best attributes right there in front of them, including their shoes.
I feel like that's like something that you can never forget for you or for him. That's
No, he still
amazing.
calls me to this day. I mean, and that's been 20 years ago. So think about that.
Wow. That's an impactful story. My goodness. I'm shocked. Like I have no words. That's really an amazing story. And what did you learn from that first placement?
Well, what I learned from it, it wasn't so much as what I learned from it, but how it made me feel. Because when I was in operations and I had managers that worked for me, I had all kinds of awards that I won for food cost and all this kind of stuff and sales and things, and you can put those on the walls. But when you
Mhm.
saw a manager get promoted, it made you feel good, and that sense came right back into me from that placement, and I knew I had made the right decision with Gecko because now I was being able to take my expertise that I learned in operations in restaurants over, at that time it was 20 plus years, but I knew then that I could help not only my clients get good candidates, ones that they can't just find anywhere, but I could also get those candidates their dream job, their career moving in the right direction. And that to me is that's why I do this. I do it because it just makes you feel good when you see somebody, that's got their dream job and they're moving on.
That's really powerful and how you just described that whole story. Like I can feel it of you
I
just
get
talking
goosebumps
about it.
because I
I
mean
do
that's
too. Goosebumps. You're still talking to him 20 years later. That just shows that you care about relationships with your clients. He's not just a placement. He's a
no.
person. Yeah. You told him what to do and he got it.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it's a numbers game, but my clients and candidates are not numbers to me.
Yeah.
They're people. They're business folks that are trying to expand and grow, and that affects their families. And once again, we talked about Gecko as being a family. I want to extend that out to every candidate and client I work with as being part of our family as a whole.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's such an important point that you point out. And let's get into the industry insights. Are you ready?
Okay. Yeah, I'm ready for it.
What are some key elements of exceptional guest service?
Well, it's follow up. I mean, that's
Right.
the key to everything and listening. You got to listen to your clients, your candidates, your customers. You got to listen to what they're looking for. It can't just, every client and every candidate has different needs. And so as an industry, you have to listen to what they're looking for, and you have to it's like putting a puzzle together. You have to put the right pieces together. I hear all the time that candidates just fall off the job boards all the time. Well, yeah, they do, and they're the same people. Like when you see Restaurant Row and you see help wanted, help wanted. Most of the people
Mhm.
coming off for job boards are the ones that keep going from restaurant to restaurant to restaurant because they see something different, so they never stick. And so what we want to do in the industry is put the right people with the right positions, and by doing that, it strengthens everybody. And I think as an industry, that's probably the most important thing.
Yeah. And how do you train or mentor others to deliver that exceptional service?
It's funny you asked that. So Don Hutchison and I, so there's a lot of us who used to work together. Don, John Buffalo, Scott Lacey, Chris Jensen, one of my senior recruiters. We all kind of, were together. And so Don and I, a few years ago, put together a Ryan's Mentor program. One thing about us, we all work remotely. And so we all have our own offices. So it's really important that when you're out there, you don't feel alone, that you've always got that person you can call. One of my mentees is Lorraine Broadway, who is one of the best young ladies in the industry right now. She covers Wisconsin, and let me tell you, for the youngest franchise partner, watch out for her. And so when she has a question, she does not hesitate to pick up the phone and call and ask. And the one thing that when I talk to my mentees is that there's never a bad question, you know. I mean, there's never a bad answer, but if you don't ask it, you won't know. The one thing I talk to my teams about all the time, I can do a lot. One thing I've never learned to do yet is read minds. So unless you ask or project it, you're never going to get the answer. So I really like that part of our program, and it's taken off. And there's a lot of other of us experienced franchise partners that mentor not only franchise partners but recruiters also, because the stronger we can become as individuals and individual offices, the better that we can grow and take care of our clients and candidates.
I like that you said ask questions. I think that's so important to learn.
Mhm.
And I feel like again, like I just started, I feel like I can ask as many questions and they're like, "Oh, I'm here to help."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I just turned 65 last week and I'm still asking questions, so I'm not above it either. I will call and ask, and it's like we have different calls with different franchise partners, and technology is not my big thing.
Strong suit.
And
Yeah.
so Deborah Bush yesterday, I said, Deborah, listen, can you call me after this call about 2 o'clock and kind of dumb it down for me? And she goes, not a problem. So
I mean, technology's hard. It's
yeah,
hard.
yeah,
I
it
get
is.
it. And how did you build trust with the client, with the client, and what advice would you give others about client relationships?
Honesty.
Honesty.
That's all it boils down to. I mean, we had a situation just last week where the client wasn't really sure what to do about a scenario, and we said, hey, if you're not sure about it, don't do it. You're not going to offend
Mm-hmm.
us. We're there once again to be your partner. We're there to let you bounce ideas off of us and ask those questions to us. And so when we're working with a client or a candidate, we really we want them to be honest with us, and we have to be honest back. And if it's not a fit, just say it's not a fit. You get the ghosting these days. I think that comes from uh, a lot from where clients and candidates feel like they really can't open up and be honest with you. So if we can start that relationship off from day one with the honesty and just putting it right out there, it makes it easier for the candidate and the client to work for us. So that's what I would impress on everybody. Just say what's on your mind.
I love how simple it was. Honest.
Yeah.
Just be honest.
It's pretty easy.
I love that.
Now, with that being said, sometimes it's hard to hear the honesty, but you
It
grow
can
off
be.
it.
It can be. And let's talk about building relationships. Can you share strategies for fostering strong relationships?
It's just, well, it's like being married. So Ron and I will be married 36 years this year.
Wow,
And
congratulations.
and everybody says, "Wow, what is that?" Well, it's pretty simple. You have to listen, and when you're building relationships with people, and you have to adapt to what they're looking for as well as us adapting with them. So when you're building relationships, it's remembering the conversations that you've had with folks. And this is one of my favorite parts of the job is when I'm having a conversation with somebody and I'm making the notes that if I'm reading an article, I'm thinking, oh wow, you know what? I was talking to such and such about a month ago about this. This would be great for them, and passing that knowledge on to them. Knowledge is key to everything to building a relationship. So if you start that relationship of sharing your knowledge, once again they'll share their knowledge with you, and by building that relationship, we actually I signed a client about a month ago. It was off a referral, and so if you're building your relationship correct, then you know that because they're if you have a client that's referring you over to another company, that's huge because they're in the same industry. And it's the same thing with candidates. If you're building that relationship with a candidate, they know everybody. I mean, we want to think that the restaurant hospitality industry is huge, and it
Mhm.
is, but it is small.
It's a
Everybody.
small.
So if you're building the right relationships, everybody's going to communicate that to their friends. And that's one thing that I don't want it to be, hey, this is Gecko recruiter to Gecko client, Gecko's candidate. I want it to be a Maury to Morgan, you know.
Yeah.
Hey, I want it, it's easier to do business with friends. If you feel
Yeah.
comfortable with somebody, the honesty, that builds the relationship, that becomes a friend with you. I'll walk in Rhonda's office, my wife. I mean, she's absolutely wonderful, one of the best out there. I'll walk in and I'm listening to her, and I'm thinking she's talking to one of our neighbors, but she'll be talking to somebody in Montana about one of the daughter's soccer games that they just had and how well it went and things like that. So it's so important when you're building relationships that it's just not all about business, that it's
Yeah.
truly about what you're saying it is. Once again, it goes back to honesty, that we really do truly care about you as an individual and as a business.
You actually answered my next question that I was about to have. So you were ahead of the game.
That's good. Let Rhonda know that, okay?
So you beat me to the punch. Okay. So Do you have a particular story of a relationship you had that was meaningful that impacted your career?
Well, I'd have to go back to my mentor, Rick Kirk.
Yeah.
He, God rest his soul now. But Rick was everything that I pass on to people right now really comes from Rick. And that
Wow.
relationship started as him being my boss, but he truly embodied everything that I have just talked about. He was generally interested in us as individuals. I remember we were at my Joplin, Missouri store one day and we were driving around and Rick goes, "Hey, do you mind me talking about your finances?" No. He goes, "Well, how are you and Rhonda doing here and doing there?" And so I told him, he goes, "Oh, wow." He goes, "You guys are doing really well." I said, "Yeah." I said, we're looking at the future and different things. And it was about 2 weeks later, he comes into town and we were remodeling that store. And I was building a house at that time. And Rick goes, "Hey, you're building a new house, right?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, we got those Corian sinks in the bathrooms and we're going to throw those away. You could use those in your downstairs bathroom, or the one for the upstairs for the boys." And so that was truly probably one of the best relationships I've ever had. And it was just things like that. He genuinely was interested in you.
It's the little things that count.
It is, you know.
Yeah. All right, we're going to get into the next topic, personal reflections. What has been the most rewarding part of your career?
Um, well, I highlighted it a little bit earlier. It's
Yeah.
it's it's seeing people get the right position, growing with that. Um, the relationships I've built, with Robert and Marty and Joan and Brian Bloom and I'm probably going to forget people, that have been here in the past, and then the newer franchise partners, Jay, Lorena, Don, and John, and all, Chris, all on. So those are probably the most rewarding things. It's just that being part of a company that it doesn't feel has that corporate feel.
Yeah.
It has that feel where we're all working, even though we're individual offices, we are a company because Gecko's represented throughout the United States and Canada and now in Europe. And we want it to feel like we're all one big team. And that's something that's good for our clients when we're all one big team, that we know that we're working together as a collective to make it work for everyone.
I couldn't agree more. And how do you find success?
Um, I define success by having a position that gives me the time I want to spend with my family. And also by looking at the individuals that I've helped over the years, seeing them grow and their families growing like what my family has. And then I feel like that I've done the right thing with those people that I've helped, that they were able to actually grow like we talked about years ago. So that's how I would define it, seeing other people be successful.
It's definitely definitely well put way of defining success. And before we wrap up, I
Okay.
have some 5 rapid fire questions for you. Are
All
you ready?
righty, I'm ready to go.
All right. Beach or pool? Beach or pool?
Beach in the sunsets. Yeah,
Hotel gym or I'm on vacation mode?
on vacation.
Christmas or Easter?
Christmas.
Football or soccer?
Oh, football.
If you weren't in hospitality, what would you be doing?
I would like to think that I'd be working with, one of my favorite things was coaching, working with kids.
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, I really appreciate you coming on Stirring Up Talk. I had a great conversation and can't wait for next time.
Oh, I can't either. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, Morgan. And yeah, bring it on. I'm ready to go already.
Yeah.